this could be our moment, right? This could be the moment that anyone who's ever gone to a lifestyle medicine or functional medicine or integrative medicine conference for all this time has seen the light, has left conventional care, probably to their own professional detriment, to go and practice a medicine that feels congruent with the person that they are, with the way that they know the body heals. I think this could be our movement. This could be our moment to really shine, but it's going to have to be, we have to organize, we have to get together, and that's the whole point of the the functional forum. And that's the point of Heal Community, to find scalable ways to deliver it into the health system that is hyper palatable to the system itself. So I think this is our moment. I know it's probably going to be a weird 2023, but I'm hoping for some accountability in the health space. So without further ado, I'm super excited to introduce our second speaker. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I knew Dr. Lisa Koche 4 years before I started the Functional Forum. I was really enamored with her practice because back then I saw someone delivering a standard of care that I thought would be the future of care. And she's been doing it now for 2 decades. It keeps getting better. She's worked with people like Tony Robbins. She has an incredible practice in Tampa, Florida. So please give a warm Miami welcome to Dr. Lisa Koche.
Thank you, James. So I am going to stay down here so that I don't fall off that stage, and because I like to really interact. And I'm so excited about the opportunity to speak on this topic that I brought my notes because I really didn't want to forget a single point. I had to cram it all into 20 minutes. So here we go. So I want to talk first. I want to ask you some questions. Why did you go into medicine? I'm going to guess 3 main points because clearly you're all brilliant. So that's one of them. Maybe you have a high level of empathy, the desire to help heal others. But I'm going to also say you're all natural born leaders. And I think that we can all agree we went into medicine with a certain amount of passion to share the gift of knowledge of physiology, but also that beautiful, beautiful honor of having sanctity to help people as they went on and they currently go on their own healing journey. But if you're like me, I think many of you have become frustrated. The beauty that drove us all here has faded, and we find ourselves now searching for something new. The new medicine, a way to connect with our patients, heal them, that gets rid of these old, outworn ways that we have all been practicing. I like to think of us all like we're in the movie The Matrix. Does everybody like that one? We're searching for the red pill, the one that has the truth, that has all of the answers. So if you look up here, I'll tell you that the truth is we've been frustrated for a really long time. You can look at dissatisfaction in doctors. It's at an all-time high. It's also apparently been, the word has gotten out on the street because there's a shortage of us. And what about insurance? Can you tell me a single other trade where a third party in an ivory tower is making money while we conduct a sacred one-on-one interaction with our patient? Never understood that. How about big pharma controlling most of our education after medical school? It's hard to find the education in any other way. So all the things we learned in pharmacology, the exciting things about medicine when we first were learning, now they seem to come with an undertone, right? It's like we have become pawns for some greater agenda. Never has this been more obvious to me than in the past couple of years, where we've seen even very trusted journals publish or retract studies with data that was suspicious at best. But I'm going to ask you a question. What if COVID is the red pill? I like to believe that COVID may have been one of the greatest things that could have happened to medicine, allowing us to question everything that has been and help us get on the bridge that's going to lead us to the evolution of medicine and where it needs to go. This bridge travels us from conventional to functional to bioenergetic to our highest possible potential, I like to call potentiality. So think about the cost of not ever getting on this bridge where we've been going, and all of the things that you lose if you never get on, like that, figuring out who that highest version of you is. And we all know those people, right? The ones that walk in the room and the room literally lights up. It's like time stops. They have a certain magnetism. They seem healthy in mind and body. And we want to be like them. We don't know how, but for this night, we'll settle for just getting close, hoping that maybe some of their secrets will rub off on us, right? And this person, the one who's getting close to their highest potential, that lit version, is what I like to call them. It's my new definition of the word lit. So becoming lit is a destination. It's not a destination, it's a journey. And we go on this journey to unparalleled and unbelievable levels that we have not yet discovered. So I want you, as you're sitting here or watching at home, to think about a day in your life when you were lit. The energy was flowing, things were coming, ideas. And what if you and your patients could always feel that good, be that productive? I'm guessing that concept is not one that those in charge of the matrix are going to be very comfortable with. So as we talk about getting on this bridge, I'm going to introduce you first to a patient of mine. This is Sarah. She came to me in her mid-40s, truly distraught. She had been to multiple doctors, had tons of labs, tons of scans. Everyone told her nothing was wrong. They gave her tons of medications, and she brought the scripts in, from Zoloft to birth control pills. This story that all of you I know have heard before has become all too familiar. And frankly, the medical gaslighting is causing trauma that is just one more thing we as practitioners that are aware and awake and open are having to deal with. So as I thought about Sarah, I wanted to realize and tie her journey into mine, and I wanted to take the opportunity to share with you that today. Why me was the question I asked at the age of 15 when I was diagnosed with childhood leukemia, despite feeling totally fine. I handled the 3 years of intense chemotherapy well, just to go for my first ever pap smear once I was in college, where they found a mass on my ovary, turned out to be a sanctuary site of leukemic cells. I went through surgery and had to start my chemo all over again, which quickly led to adriamycin-induced heart failure. This journey, as crazy as it was, I was able to prove some of my resilience because I was still able to graduate on time. I took physics in the middle of New York City at night while I was getting a chemo at Sloan Kettering. And it led me to continual questions of why, to the most obvious place to go to search for answers, which is medical school. So I go for my first interview, and the guy asked me, "So, what do you want to be when you get out of school?" So very proudly, I responded, "Well, I want to be a pediatric oncologist, of course." And thankful to him to this day, because he looked at me with what I would describe some kind of combination of disdain and concern. And he said, "Really? You want to take care of sick kids all day?" And I said, "Wait, now I have disdain in my head. No, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure nobody ever has to experience what I have been through." So I went with that mission in mind to medical school, onto internal medicine residency, asking questions all along the way, looking for answers. All I got was the same, right? Patients would come in, they'd have complaints, we'd take labs, we'd do scans, we'd put them on protocols that didn't seem to answer their why either. So I figured somebody's got to do it. So I went and trained myself in nutrition and integrative medicine and hormones, and I got better. For a while, I was able to help the patients like Sarah. And it led to what I like to call the place to begin. So where do we begin? So we just heard from the last speaker so many of the important things with sleep and nutrition and the basic fundamentals. But that led me also into what I call the 6 core healing pillars. So if you're just starting out in functional medicine, or if you're deeply in functional medicine, I'm sure many of you are closely familiar with these. And because of the time constraints, I'm not going to go too deep, but just getting your gut healed, understanding the importance of your adrenals, thyroid, your hormones, making sure your patients have addressed chronic infectious etiology, that you're giving them tools to help them with stress, and that you're helping them detoxify. And what I found is that when we dug into these healing pillars, so much improvement came. And it did, like I said, for patients like Sarah, she got better without medication. I got better. And that was for a while. After I had my son, which nobody believed I could get pregnant again, with 1 ovary, 5 years of chemo, and I was 40 with no fertility. So I was able to have him. He was delivered under emergency general cardiac anesthesia. So after that, I tried to figure out why again. Because here we were. Why? I had cardiac issues again. I was having headaches. I was tired. I was foggy. And all of my questioning made me realize that there was more. So in my constant quest for truth, curiosity and questions, I transitioned on the bridge into what I like to call the bioenergetics space. And I'm going to introduce this space to you through another patient. These deeper levels of performance we had to transition with him and with me, and I'd like to share it with all of my patients now. So here's Joe. Joe is one of my favorite patients. So you guys know the type that you get excited when you see him on your schedule because he's fun. He was always in a good mood. He was mid-50s, CEO, dad, always happy, always had like super cool, exciting stories. And that day when I went in, Joe was different. He said he was concerned, he had questions. He was not recovering after he was in the gym. He was gaining weight despite his clean diet. He was foggy, he had neck pain, and more. And if it, told him I would have been just as frustrated because guess what? Joe had already done all that great stuff. His gut was healed. He was taking his probiotics. He had healed up. His adrenals were balanced. He was on testosterone. He was meditating. And he still didn't feel good. So then I just decided to say, well, let's keep going. And the first of these next pillars that I'm going to share with you was a really, really powerful one. How many of you guys refer to a chiropractor or see a chiropractor yourself? Okay, good job. So for me, if you're like me, I was always open to chiropractic, but I had seen people get hurt in my training, so I would always give a little warning, maybe don't let them crack your neck. And I got exposed to something called upper cervical atlas orthogonal, which is a lot of words, but it's kind of a little-known niche of chiropractic, through a patient of mine who had bilateral plantar fasciitis. So the inflammation on the bottom of her feet was so severe that she could not get out of bed. Her husband was a pretty well-known Yale-trained neurosurgeon, so she had been everywhere. You guessed it, she'd been there. Mayo, Cleveland Clinic. So she came to see me because I'm open to weird stuff, was exactly how she said it. So I sent her to a healer that I know who promptly sent her to get this procedure done. So what they do is they measure within 1/100th of a degree, C1, which is the first bone in your neck, and it's tapped in using a percussive sound wave back into alignment. By doing that, you're increasing blood flow to the brain through your vertebral arteries. You're also enhancing connection to the body. And when I tell you this adjustment fixed her feet, I said, wow, fascinating. And I started going to the place and eventually bringing a practitioner in my clinic with me, and then would watch as people's blood pressure, they'd get off their blood pressure meds, vision got improved, crazy back pain, neck pain, headaches, all got better. Another area to consider when you're looking at structural concepts is the fascia. So when we're in medical school, all we see is an anatomy. Like it's this stuff we cut open, it looks like cellophane. And you think it's just there to protect the organs. I didn't. Did you realize there's anything else that fascia does? Anybody? Well, tonight when you get home, look up the living fascia on YouTube. There's videos of people in the operating room showing what fascia does. It's one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. It's actually a hydraulic pump moving water all over your body, and it conducts electricity. So we can actually pay attention to fascia. There's techniques to release it that can enhance how you feel. And when we're talking about bioenergetics, we've got to get into the energy of the energy maker itself, our mitochondria. So I love mitochondria. They're one of my absolute favorites to talk about, because they not only do they take oxygen from the air we breathe, electrons from the food that we eat, and turn them into ATP, which is our energy source, but did you know you can actually make new mitochondria pretty easily? Because I never knew that. I don't think we were taught that. In fact, most of our teaching about mitochondria came where? Anybody? High school biology? That was the case for me. And recently, my daughter actually asked me to quiz her for an exam, and she told me it was about the mitochondria. So I was all in because I was still studying it and kind of refreshing. And I pulled the packet out, and the first 6 pages were about a leaf. So I said, Jordan, why did you give me things to quiz you on about the leaf? And she's the one who told me, Mom, what's the big deal? The chloroplast and the mitochondria are exactly the same. Did you guys know that? I didn't. And they do look exactly the same. So as I started studying this, it turns out that guess what? The same things that help plants help us. So anytime you're in an interaction with a patient or you're trying to get some more energy yourself, think about how you treat your plants. Get some sun, get some good clean water, connect to the earth, and maybe say a few nice words to yourself. Those of you that are good at taking care of plants. The other topic for mitochondria that I love is that of hormesis. Hormesis means microstressors. And the best way to explain hormesis is with 2 of my favorite things, olive oil and wine. The olives and the grapes that make the best olive oil and wine have had the most stress. It could be a drought, it could be raining for 2 weeks, and those crops, in order to survive, secrete more antioxidants, and they taste better and they're more coveted. Turns out humans had this same capacity, but nobody's told us that. Until recently, we're figuring it out. Because guess what? We're lazy. So when we're cold, we go inside. When we're hungry, we eat. We don't stress our bodies. But this is why you're now seeing a resurgence or a surgence of people actually causing stress. Fasting, cold therapy, light therapy, activated oxygen. If we go deeper into the cell, there's a couple of other things I'm going to mention too real quickly. The exciting, evolving area of peptide therapy. Does anybody here do peptide therapy? Good, awesome. Peptides, these small amino acid signaling molecules, can do everything from treat diabetes to enhance human performance. And the stem cell field keeps growing and evolving. Most recently, I went and got trained in a new technique where they're taking your own very small embryonic-like cells called V cells, turning them on with light, holograms, and sound, and injecting them back in and guiding them with light. This field is exploding. So photobiomodulation, which is hard to say, is the entire field about light. Understanding that we actually have receptors on our cell that respond to light. Did you guys know that one? It can trigger responses, light. And one of the more exciting things, which is we also emit light. Our very DNA pulsates electrical light frequencies that we think hold potentially something as wild as the blueprint for our entire body. Our DNA is also being discovered in new ways. In 2019, they discovered something called methylation clocks. And you can look at your DNA now and actually measure your biological age. So you may be sitting in here and be 40, chronologically. And we test this, which is looking directly at your DNA, and you may be 50. Or you could be like one of the lead researchers from Harvard that's doing age research, who is in his mid to late 50s, and his biological age is 28. So when we talk about potential and potentiality, You may have heard people talking about the increasing life expectancy that we may be looking forward to, or at least people on the fringe saying, I'm going to 120, I'm going to 130. Well, if he's only 28 and he's 57, it doesn't seem quite that crazy after all, right? But in order to get over the bridge to potentiality, there's some gaps that we have to address. We've been using energy in a lot of our diagnostic tools for centuries, right? So EKG is energy, EEG is energy, MRIs are energy. And then what do? We measure energetic imbalances, and then we turn our treatment and we look to biochemistry. Does anybody see a disconnect there? Okay. We need to embrace the biophysics, which is what is happening. Embracing the biophysics, the next level of what needs to come on. So as I travel and lead you into this potential, I want to share another couple of pointers. When you are going to question things like basically physics, you have to expand your mindset, and you have to step into quantum. So we're going to talk about mindset just for a second. This is an area that's very near and dear to my heart. And the first is, many healers are not in sovereignty. What does that mean? Being in sovereignty means that you have your own needs and energy is managed. Your own energy is managed. Many of us are people-pleasing accommodators, and when we do that, we're not able to achieve potentiality or stay neutral. Plus, it doesn't matter what your gender is. We are all a blend of masculine and feminine energies. Our goal is to be both heroic and action-based while staying connected and empathic. If you fall off on either side, keep that growth mindset and just try to find the balance again. And then quantum. So many of you know meridians, chakras, and chi. You've heard these words. Other cultures paying so much more attention than our very culture. But just remember, we have a physical vessel, but we also have an energy field that expands beyond our body that needs as much, if not more, attention than our physical body. And sometimes, and many people do believe that actually the true performance edge comes with the energy of our hearts. So our hearts actually enter a room before we do. The energy from the heart goes out 8 feet. It enters the room. It actually feels and senses the environment, translate what it sees into messages that it sends to your brain. That blew me away. Especially as somebody who had to get a biventricular defibrillator due to my cardiotoxicity. So I focus really well on my heart. So we have what's about 40,000 or more neurons in our heart. And now science is showing that when you can get in heart coherence, you have higher cell-to-cell communication, intuition, and the overall edge we're looking for. And when we talk about quantum concepts, just think of quantum entanglement, which basically is showing us that objects could be halfway across the world and still be connected. We're also getting research that you can change your patterns in your mind and really expand the capacity of your brain. So total alignment in mind, body, and spirit. How do we get there? It seems super futuristic, right? All this stuff I'm talking about. Guess what? The answer lies from somebody about 2,500 years ago, because we can look no further than Plato's allegory of the cave. Has anybody heard of that one before? Okay. So Plato's allegory of the cave is a story that involves prisoners that were tied up into a cave facing a wall. And all they could see were shadows coming from the fire behind them, and they thought the shadows were real because that's all they knew. So I like to say that symbolically, humanity so far has only known the shadows of a cave. The way out is what the story continues, and I'm just going to read this one. The way out is by overcoming the fear that learning the truth brings with it. Only then can a person see reality and help guide the rest of the prisoners to freedom. The concept behind this message, that there is always more to question, led me to what I call the 3 principles of truth that I came up with. Okay. Principle number 1, it may be true, but not yet discovered. So nothing is more obvious than the last example up there, which is we know water since we were born. Water comes as ice, liquid, or steam. There's a book called The Fourth Phase of Water. Gerald Pollack, it's a good read. And it's gel. How about principle number 2? Your intuition tells you it should be true, but we've been led away by prior assumptions or a specific agenda. If anybody ate SnackWells back in the day, you know what I'm talking about. We were so excited they were okay. And principle number 3, it's true but often subconsciously blocked by your own personal fears and self-judgment. I can't stress this one enough. This one is so important because when we play small, when we are questioning ourselves, when we become disconnected to ourselves, we are much more ripe for programming. So I want you now, as we wrap up, this is the last slide, to think about all the opportunities that have passed us by because we were too tired, stressed, or too scared to make a move. What if we could unlock the unused potential in our bodies and those of our patients so that everyone around would come up to us and say, "What are you doing? You're back to lighting up the room." So just like Sarah and Joe, we are all on the bridge to potentiality. Understanding our ability and human right to be a fully healed and empowered version of ourselves, using the evolution of medicine as a guide. The truth is, you have the red pill and always have. It's your intuition, your curiosity, and your quest for truth. So use it, and let's go heal the world together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to bring the chairs up here. We're going to have a panel. I'm so glad that just happened. That was really amazing.